Welcome to the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is time to do the Week 10 quarterback rankings. We are getting there. We are inching closer and closer towards the playoffs, and it's, start thinking about the playoffs. If you're in a situation where you are probably going to be making them, don't be afraid to look ahead. But before we can ever look ahead, we always must look back and see how I did with my Week 9 Love'ems, my Fade'em, my DFS picks, which you will see DFS picks at the end of this video for Week 10. And how did I do with my DFS picks? In the not cheap category here, not dirt cheap, I took Dak Prescott at 6,500. Thought that looked like a good price for him, and he ended up as the quarterback too. So off to a good start there. Then in the cheapish category at 5,700, I liked Derek Carr. He finished as the quarterback 11, so I feel like you got your money back there. Might not have helped you win a big tournament, but it helped you stay in it for the cost that he, for his cost. Then in the bargain bin, I had Bryce Young at 5,100 and Zach Wilson at 4,800, and we're just going to leave them down there. That was not good, and those two were also... I don't normally do two loves, but I did do two loves last week because I was like, I can't really ultimately ever suggest for you to start Zach Wilson because he's so untrustworthy. So I gave you Bryce Young as my official. They were both official, but my official love them. And yeah, they both sucked. So that didn't go well. I think Zach Wilson actually did outscore Bryce Young by a touch. So yeah. Then for my Fade'em, I gave you Gardner Minshew, so we're back on the good train there. He finished as a quarterback 20, didn't have a good week, didn't expect it. So yeah, on to Week 10 it is. So you can find my rankings up at the website as you see them up on the screen, as you will see them completed. We'll go through them in tiers, and there are projections as well that you can see. The expected range is a projection, not my ranking. And that's all on the website, www.theffforge.com. You can find that link down in the description, and that, of course, gets updated throughout the week. But there is my big update on Saturday that I do a video for, and then, of course, my ultimate final rankings are available right here on YouTube 1.5 hours prior to kickoff. I go live. Any start-sit questions you can ask me then. Let's get into the Week 10 rankings. This is going to be one of those weeks where there's not much dissension amongst rankers. Probably will continue that way. There's definitely not much dissension for my top 10 compared to the top 10 of the ECR. The same top 10 would be found in the ECR, slightly different order, but it's pretty easy to say, hey, these 10 guys, you should start if you have them. And for me, this is the order that I would start them if I happen to have two of them within. And the real only big difference here between me and the rankings, myself and the rankings, would be Lamar Jackson, who I have 7th. I think the ECR in him is 3rd right now, going up against Cleveland. Really tough matchup, so I don't like the floor for him. Of course, could always have a big game, but I would just trust the floor of the guys that I have ranked ahead of him over what he's going to give me, just given that matchup, or over what I am afraid of him potentially doing, given that matchup. So, top 10 quarterbacks for Week 10, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jared Goff, CJ Stroud, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, and Sam Howell, all essentially must starts. And that's going to bring us on to my second tier of quarterbacks. And just ignore this coloring down here for now. But at quarterback 11 is Kyler Murray. And so for my Thursday video, my tight ends video, I'm in much less of a time crunch, and I'm able to have a little bit more fun with those videos and in the editing of them usually, and so I'm a little bit looser for them. And I did something that I thought was kind of fun last week for my tight ends video. Had a little tier of 3 or 4 tight ends, and I ended up just giving them a Katy Perry song to explain how I felt about each of them. So, for instance, for Dalton Schultz, the song Hot and Cold, it's like, he's hot and then he's cold, he's yes and he's no, he's up and he's down, because he's been a very volatile player so far this season. Very low floor, nice, good ceiling for him. And so I thought I would do something similar for this video with the quarterbacks, because, like I said, it's pretty straightforward this week on who you should be starting and sitting, especially for the top 10 guys. But I decided to go with Michael Jackson songs. I thought this would be easier than it was. So, play with a little creativity here. Some of the lyrics I might have altered a little bit in order to fit better for these guys, but play along. You can guess what song it is from Michael Jackson that I am, for the most part, just reading the lyrics off for, a little portion of the lyrics for how we can feel about that player this week. And so for this first song for Kyler Murray, I would have changed the lyrics to mock his running style, because they actually, the words baby is in there. It really would have been fitting for the song and easy to do. However, I was not too sure that people would be familiar enough with the lyrics of this song for the parody to really come through. So instead, for Kyler Murray, the way you make me feel, you really turn me on. You knock me off of my feet. My lonely days are gone. Quarterbacks have been dropping like flies, and the long-awaited return of Kyler Murray could have come sooner. But the matchups have absolutely stunk over the past 2 weeks. But now he gets to face Atlanta, who is a top 10 quarterback matchup via average fantasy points given up per week. Feel free to fire him up with, a little bit of hesitancy. At quarterback 12, we have Justin Fields. You better run. You better do what you can. Don't want to see no blood. Please be a macho man. You want to be tough. Better do what you can. So run it, 'cause your thumb's kinda bad. I'm worried about how well he's going to be throwing, and Carolina has been a team that most teams have been able to run all over, haven't really given up a whole lot of fantasy points to quarterbacks for, I don't think, any other reason than that. The hope is that Justin Fields will get in on that and break a few big runs in this game this week, so I'm cautiously excited for the return of Fields, but if I could avoid playing him, I would. And so for me, I have Kyler Murray and Justin Fields both coming back this week, and I think I'm probably just going to play Kyler and sit Justin Fields. So if you're in a situation that you can, do so. But, the rushing upside, it could be huge this week, and just the upside in general for Justin Fields has been huge, but that thumb's concerning. It's kind of bad. Then at quarterback 13, we have Russell Wilson. I don't want to rock with you on Sunday. Bronco country.
Let's rock.
I don't want to rock with you.
Let's rock.
We're gonna rock that Buffalo D. Hopefully. Look, do I want to rock with Russell? No. It's not a very good matchup. But the fact of the matter is, based on how Russell Wilson has done throughout the season so far, this is about where I have to rank him. You can see the projections like him quite a bit. That said, Geno Smith has not been doing much at all this season, and he's my quarterback 14, so that's why Russell's ahead of him. Geno gonna make a change. For once in this season, it's gonna feel real good, gonna make a difference, gonna make it right. Geno gets a smash matchup this week going up against the Washington Commanders. If he can't do anything in this matchup, then he is probably worth dropping. I think you can start your Genos with a hesitant confidence this week. And that's going to bring us to my quarterback 15 in Will Levis. Because this is thriller night. And no one's going to save you from the beast about to strike. Will Levis gets set up with the fourth best quarterback matchup so far on this season in Tampa Bay, who just got lit up by rookie quarterback C.J. Stroud, fellow rookie quarterback, and 2 weeks after Will Levis just threw for 4 touchdowns himself. It could be another thriller of a game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Levis ceiling is real, and so is the floor, which we just saw last week, so, he's a love him for me this week. The ceiling is as high as anybody's, as you can see the projections agree with that. But, he's still a rookie. Then we've got Derek Carr in at my quarterback 16. I don't know, but you want to try every time you see the end zone. That's not part of the song. The end zones, that's my own little take on this song. Because, Derek Carr, would you just throw it into the end zone for people who are starting you, please? That would be great. All in all, the truth of the matter is that he's a safe play this week. He's in an okay matchup. He's been a safe play like all season. Not a real ceiling guy, but decent enough floor. And at quarterback 17, we have Baker Mayfield. We treated you bad and doubted, my dear. And Baker, since the year began, don't you know? I've seen, with my head hanging down, and I wonder, who's loving you? It's not a very good matchup this week, but Baker has been solid all season long. He has scored over 16 fantasy points in all but 2 games. So I think 7-2 games, he has scored 16 fantasy points in. That's going to bring us to my third tier of quarterbacks. And that starts at my quarterback 18 with Josh Dobbs, but I do want to quick now explain the coloration. As you can see, it extended to 2 quarterbacks here. So what this is this is just kind of like a mini tier within 2 different tiers where I would be happy to... You could start Tyler Heineke over any of the guys that he has been ranked below, and I'm not going to argue against it one bit. The reason that I did have the tier cut up where I did is because I really can't come up with an argument after Baker Mayfield to start those guys over a Kyler Murray, Justin Fields, etc. And so that's where I had that cutoff there. At the top of this tier, we have the creme de la creme of the tier. Joshua Dobbs, Taylor Heineke, I think, set themselves a little bit apart for me compared to the rest of this tier in confidence in starting them. That brings us to my quarterback 20, Gardner Minshew. It's not really a plus matchup going up against New England. It's tough to think that there's going to be much of a ceiling for him this week in that matchup. At quarterback 21, we have Jordan Love, and it's been rough in the start of the season. Is definitely continuing to hold up his projections, at least as far as what that ceiling looks like for him, the higher end of this expected range that I have for him. It's a tough matchup against Pittsburgh. It's really hard to imagine that it's going to look a whole lot better this week in once again, a tough matchup. Quarterback 22, we have Deshaun Watson, and he's gotten away with murder more than once this season in terms of how good his fantasy points have looked compared to how good he's looked on the field. And sometimes, I think more than just last week, he's had some really lucky throws that ended up being productive and creating a lot of fantasy points, which puts him, so far his production, fantasy-wise, has put him as a top 5 fantasy quarterback on the season on average per week. But the Ravens are the single worst matchup, so it's really easy to essentially fade him despite his production so far this season because of what we've seen on the field and the matchup. Then at quarterback 23, we have Bryce Young, and last week was a huge disappointment, and it just tanked. Like all of the positive vibes, good feelings that we had going into last week for Bryce Young. However, this week he is in a very good matchup against Chicago. I think it's the best quarterback, second best quarterback matchup that there is via average fantasy points allowed per week. So, it's a good get-right week for Bryce Young, so I would have enough confidence if I had to play him, which cannot really be said for my final tier down here. Tommy DeVito, Mac Jones, Kenny Pickett, Zach Wilson, Aiden O'Connell. I'd rather not have to start those guys. And that is my tight end rankings for Week 10. And one last thing before we go. My DFS buys for DK, not dirt cheap. Joe Burrow at 6,800 versus Houston, I think is a good route to go, a good value for the dollars spent there. And then a cheaper option would be Brock Purdy at 5,700 going up against Seattle. For the cost, he's the best value probably that there is for me compared to where I have him ranked this week. And then for the bargain bin, Russell Wilson at $5,200 versus Buffalo. Spoke about that, definitely concerned about it, but based on what he's done this season, there's definitely a chance that he could have a big game. So if you're just looking to save some money, take a long shot on a guy, there's your guy, Russell Wilson, way underpriced compared to where I have him projected, that's for sure. And I do understand the pricing for it too, unfortunately. So thank you very, very much. I will see you in I don't know which one I'm going to do next, running backs or wide receivers video, and peace out.